I'm John Dennis. I'm running against Nancy Pelosi.
We have the most beautiful state and one of the most beautiful places in the world, and people are leaving.
I'm gonna catch you when all the cameras aren't around, and I'm gonna you up. I'll retire.
He's the chairman of the San Francisco GOP, and he's running against House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Step back, everyone.
All right, here we are. Come on in. It is the time for the John Dennis Report. Welcome to beautiful, to the Mission District in beautiful San Francisco. It's nice today. It looks like the winter is finally abated and we are moving into a little bit warmer weather. It's always a bit of a disappointment when we are dealing with cold weather in such a beautiful city. You think of California as being so warm, but you know, these nights can get really cool, and when you're not expecting it and it's kind of damp, I'll tell you what, it's a rough run. But anyway, it's starting to change, and thrilled for it. We generally have great weather, and I'm happy to be moving into the warmer part of the year. And it's also good timing because we have an event here with Scott Presler. For those of you who don't know who Scott is the tall Republican who is a big Trump supporter, who has organized. Actually, I hate to even mention this, but because it's sort of incidental, but it also helps to undermine the stereotype of bigoted Republicans, which the Democrats and the left so carefully try to cultivate. Scott happens to be gay; it doesn't really matter, but you know, anyway, he's a tall gay Republican with long hair who's made a name for working relentlessly for growing the Republican Party and growing ideas on the right. Does that largely through voter registration, teaching how to do that, and also he's known for his cleanups. Goes into these Democrat cities and cleans up their filthy towns, and we did that last year. And for those of you who are unaware of all the things that happened, Scott's done it in Los Angeles and Baltimore and here and a bunch of other places. But last year when he came, we had a confrontation with some Antifa people. And for those of you who follow me on Twitter, we posted the confrontation I had with the Antifa person who was protesting us because we were cleaning up San Francisco. Now, it was egged on by a politician whose district is so filthy that he was embarrassed by what we were doing, so he sort of sicked these Antifa folks on us. And when I went up to kind of the big guy in the group just to kind of dial back and dial down the hostility, his opening line to me was, "I want you dead," which I thought was interesting because people usually only want me dead after about 60 seconds, but he straight away went right to it. So in any event, if you see that video, it had been viewed, we put it up. I was a little reluctant to put it up because I don't want to be known as the guy running for Congress who's getting into fights with people. But anyway, we put it up. It's 56 seconds. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter account, and it is... it was viewed like 750,000 times. It went viral immediately, and then it was sort of growing and still growing. And then like maybe, I want to say like 10 days after it was posted, then Donald Trump retweeted it. And now it's got 3.2 million views today. It was on Laura Ingraham and it was on Fox News a bunch of times. So in any event, we are going to do a repeat of that this weekend. Hopefully not that, but we're going to do a cleanup, and we'll see if we can avoid any confrontations. But that's happening this Saturday. If you happen to be in the Bay Area and want to come on over and do a good thing, it's all, by the way, tied into the recall of Newsom. So we're doing this cleanup, and it's a publicity thing to get folks out, and then we're going to be gathering some more signatures, hopefully putting the finishing touches on the required signatures to get Newsom recalled. It'll be in San Francisco on Saturday morning. If you're interested, go ahead and sign up at sfgop.org. And give us your contact information, and we will divulge the details of the time and the place where we're meeting on Saturday morning. We're going to release those details 24 hours prior to the event, but it's going to be Saturday morning. You can count on that, and we just want to minimize the amount of hostile actors who can actually show up. Before I get into the rest of today's discussions, topics for discussion, want to remind you, please follow us on Twitter at RealJohnDennis, on YouTube, John Dennis Report, Facebook, John Dennis Report, really YouTube. I'd like you to see you sign up there. That would be a big help. And then Instagram, Real John Dennis, and and then tell your friends about what we're doing here. We're talking about lots of different issues. We cover national issues, but we also try and throw in national issues that emanate from San Francisco, things that have their roots here. We're going to talk a little bit about something today. Always good idea to keep an eye on what's going on in San Francisco, because what happens here tends to fan out to the rest of the country. We deal with a lot of the agenda in Washington, D.C. is driven by San Francisco ideas and San Francisco people. Who's one person from San Francisco who drives the national agenda? I'm trying to think. Oh, Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, she's from San Francisco, my opponent. So anyway, so please follow us and let us know. By the way, give me some feedback. Let me know. In fact, I'm going to go on Twitter and this would be Periscope and Facebook right now. Give us some feedback about this time. We were doing it a little bit earlier, but we've taken to starting a little bit later. See if some more folks can join us during this time, and just let me know. So let me start with, I'm going to have Mario on his toes today, because I'm not sure what I want to talk about first. Let me just see real quick. So we're doing this off. Mario, on the Facebook, we're doing it off John Dennis for Congress or John Dennis Report? Both. Oh, good. Okay. Good, thanks, Sam. Oh, here I am. Look at me. Good. That's funny. The lag isn't that big. So in any event, all right, so let me first talk about Nancy Pelosi. So there was an article that came up, and it's been bouncing around the internet. Nope, not that. It's been bouncing around the internet about the situation in Washington with the wall. You know, we still have the wall up in Washington, D.C. It looks like a fence, but I'm calling it a wall because Pelosi said that walls were immoral. And she's got razor wire on the top of this fence, so I think it qualifies as something of a wall. So, you know, all of that is up because of Nancy Pelosi. She made that request. She's responsible for that. She also has the National Guard in Washington, D.C. All at her request. No one will answer why they're there. No one will answer why the fence is still up. Are there threats upon the Capitol that we all need to be made aware of so that we can root out the people who are doing these things? None of this makes any sense. I mean, by the way, you pay for this, right? I mean, you pay for, all of that public property in Washington, D.C., but Nancy Pelosi apparently has the discretion to shut it down at her convenience. Why? So are we seeing any of this? Yeah. So here we have, razor wire. This is and behind it you see troops, This was never the case before. What is the point of this? But now we have another situation where, we have all these troops here, but the troops are like, it's so ill-planned. Originally, many of them were sleeping in parking lots on top of their knapsacks, and they are in in terrible conditions. Then, Mario, pull up that article about what they were being fed. So today comes up. No. Yeah, there you go. So here, put this. Yeah, look at this picture. They're being served uncooked food, like undercooked food, raw food. Yeah. Look at this. And some of it is, they said, has metal shards in it. These are National Guard. We don't know why they're there. It's so unbelievably ill-organized, poorly organized. There's no point to it. We are paying for it. What is happening? Why are these people who agree to serve the country, protect the country, defending Washington, D.C. from us, and then we're going to feed them raw food? There's never been an explanation as to why they had to sleep in the garages, why they didn't have proper facilities to use. There was like 500 of them sharing one bathroom. This is ridiculous. This is all Nancy Pelosi, all of it. She could put an end into it tomorrow. The requests have been put into her multiple times. Why are these guys in Washington, D.C.? Why is this protective fence up? And they just won't answer. This is what you get with the Biden administration. You get this, jam down your throat sort of thing. I think I have an idea as to the real reason why this is happening. So a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to Scott Adams, and he put out there, Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator and pundit and great live streamer. And he was saying that this was a message, and he's not alone in this. Other people have said this, that the reason why it was important, and the reason why I think maybe Trump let it go and it wasn't, preventing the people from storming the Capitol, was to send a message that, at some point enough is enough. Scott said, I'm really flexible until I'm not. Do this, you want to cut this deal with me, that's fine. But then if you overstep the boundaries, then you find out that I'm not flexible and I'm not fooling around with you anymore. And that was sort of the message that he felt might have been sent to some people, sent to the world regarding the storming of the Capitol. I still think it was a bad idea. I don't agree with it. And I think it was not helpful in the long term. And you can see in the immediate term, the short to immediate term, it's been used against all of us. But I get the point that he's making. And I think Nancy Pelosi got that point as well. And so this razor wire and National Guard is her response to that. She's like, okay, you've had enough? Well, here's what my response is. I've had enough of you threatening me. And I'm in control here. I've got the power, and I'll keep these National Guard in Washington, D.C., and I'll keep this razor wire fence wall in Washington, D.C. for as long as I damn well like. It's the next step up in the conversation. It's symbolic conversation between Nancy Pelosi and the rest of America. And the longer it goes on, the longer her middle finger is aimed directly at you. And that's what this is all about. So anyway, there's that. Let's move on. That's the reason, by the way, but I think why the fence is up. She wants to let you know that she controls this thing. This is her world, and you're lucky to live in it. Let's move on. I have another little suggestion too about what's happening with Andrew Cuomo. Now, Andrew Cuomo is a jackass of the first order. He and his brother couldn't be more entitled. They are, complete buffoons, brats who grew up with a father who was powerful and well known, and you can see the way they behave on TV. I mean, this guy Andrew Cuomo couldn't stop he loves the sound of his voice, and he's so intrigued by himself and so amazed by himself. He just had to go on and on and on and hold those press conferences for hours every day. And people on the left loved it, and they thought it was so entertaining. And I watched it for 5 minutes, and I was like, this is excruciating. It's so self-indulgent. There's no information. It's him lecturing people about coming together to eat pasta on Sunday with meatballs and all this other crap. And meanwhile, he was doing unconscionable things by sending people back into nursing homes who were COVID infected to a population who were to people who were most vulnerable to die from it. And that's exactly what happened. But for months and months, the media ignored that horror show. Thousands of deaths are directly traceable to that decision. And nobody talked about it. They gave him an Emmy because they thought he was so interesting on TV. His brother had him on. His brother Chris, who's on CNN, had Andrew Cuomo on, and they did some brother shtick that was nauseating. And people found it all wonderful and charming. Meanwhile, thousands of elderly people died because he put COVID-infected patients into these homes and never really was responding to it. But all of a sudden, after years of whispering about this, the bottle is like the cap was taken off, and these allegations of sexual inappropriateness, let's put it that way, have come to light about Andrew Cuomo. Now, anybody who's been around him and around the New York area and the political scene has said for years people know all about this. So why all of a sudden, when he's so obviously culpable for the deaths of thousands of elderly New York nursing home residents, why is it that this, which is not great, I mean, being inappropriate with women is not a great thing, but why is it that that's what's really causing the media to turn on him? Why is it that that is what's causing the, Democrats in New York State to turn on him? And, it seems, could be just my impression, but it seems very coordinated. And it reminds me of something I read a few years ago, which we just pulled up. Mario, if you can pull that article up. And, usually when something is coordinated like this, it comes across, there's somebody in charge of getting this information out. And somebody who wants something that Andrew Cuomo has. And, New York is a safe Democrat state, so they're going to have a Democrat governor. It just, we just need to know which governor it's going to be. And I had to pull this article up. It's from 2015. It was right after Mario Cuomo died. And it says that the Cuomo-Clinton relationship was complicated. And what that means is that they hated each other, but they used each other for different things. And so my hypothesis is that, well, first of all, my hypothesis is that somebody powerful wants Andrew Cuomo's head for some reason. They want his position, and likely candidate to be the people who were behind the gutting of Andrew Cuomo is the Clinton machine. Now, keep in mind that the Clinton machine, they're not back in power, but they are sort of on the outskirts of power now that Biden's in Washington, D.C., because they knew a lot of those players, and they are connected to a lot of the apparatchiks who are now back in control in Washington, D.C. So that's how Neera Tanden got nominated for director of OMB, because Neera Tanden is she is a Clinton hatchet woman, and so that'll tell you that the Clintons are kind of back in the game now. They are in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that it's really the Clintons who are behind, particularly Hillary, who are behind the going after Andrew Cuomo here. So let's just keep an eye on that little story. So lastly, let's move on. Now, this is something that's infuriating people across the country. It's a San Francisco-based story, but many of you may have heard of the actions recently of the San Francisco Board of Education. I have a school-aged child. She's in school. She goes to a private school, and they're back. Public schools have not been back to school, and they have come up with a million different reasons why they can't put it. In fact, the truth is actually they really haven't said the reasons why. What they just keep saying is that they have to be assured of safety and they need a plan and we're getting closer. But meanwhile, we have two parallel systems in the same space. We have the private school system where everyone is back and they have protocols and it's not crazy expensive what they do, but they're safe and careful. And then you have the public school system that is that's not back in the same city. And in the meantime, the Board of Education, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. So the Board of Education, is not addressing that, but what they are addressing is they want to rename all the schools in San Francisco, like 44 of them, because they have some level of racism or they support white supremacy. They want to get rid of the schools named after Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Dianne Feinstein and a whole bunch of other people. And if you heard the discussion that they had, the private discussion, I guess it was a subcommittee, which was on Zoom, which was recorded and released, they have done like the bare minimum research on these folks. They went to some Wikipedia entries and twisted the positions of some of these people to say that their schools don't need to be named after them. And one of the women goes, "Oh yeah, this person is a white supremacist, blah 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 blah." It's like they are just making this up as they go along. All the while, public school kids are not back in the schools, and they're worrying about this stuff. And then to add insult to injury, we have actually one really good high school in the public school system in San Francisco. And surprise, surprise, it's a merit-based high school. In other words, you don't just get to go there. It's not a lottery system, and then kids randomly go there. You actually have to test for it. You have to have good grades, and you have to get into. You have to earn your position in the school, Lowell High School. And it's an excellent school, and the Board of Education wanted to. Well, they changed the way you get into that school. They turned it into just another lottery school and took away the merit-based system that awarded positions and seats in this high school. They're going to crush this. It's the gem of the San Francisco public school system, and they are going to crush that by making it a no merit-based system. And so I started looking at it. I've only just begun to look into it. There was one person who voted against that and 6 who voted for. And I'm going to look into all these folks, but I just started looking at one. Did you put those articles up as I was talking about them, Mario?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good, thanks. But there's one I'm going to start with. One of the board members, her name is Allison Collins. See if you can pull her picture up while I'm talking here. Oh, this is Kate Larson who did that one. Allison Collins, 1 L, and Allison. Yeah. There you go. School board. See that there? Yeah. So what's interesting is we have a couple of these people in San Francisco. There's something about this woman when I was looking at her, I was like, I don't know. What is the deal here? Something odd here. And we have a supervisor here that's got Dean Preston, who's super progressive. Which is shorthand for double down socialist. And he's well known to live in a really expensive property and has a good little rental thing. So I'm looking at this woman and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? And so I started looking into it, and it turns out she and her husband live in a $4 million property in Russian Hill, one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in San Francisco, where we have a lot of prestigious neighborhoods, and it's one of the most prestigious ones. And she's one of these people. She says she's constantly been fighting for equity, not equality, equity in San Francisco. Now I'm going to look into the real estate transaction. I see the year that she and her husband acquired this property. It looks a little dodgy. I got to dig into it. It looks like they got it in a short sale at a time where, I don't know, short sales were kind of far and few between. And then she worked on making sure, raising money for a local playground. Actually, my daughter used to play it quite a bit when she was little. And it just sort of seems like she was a mom who needed projects, to do. And here she is fighting for the socialist agenda, fighting for equity. Meanwhile, she's doing nothing but building up equity in the house that she owns in Russian Hill. A $4 million house, by the way. Think about that. And they bought it for not a lot of money, it looks like, some time ago, over a decade ago. So I'm going to just keep digging into it. But this is typical stuff. I mean, we have all of these rules, all these attacks on capitalism from people who want to build equity, and they give us their funky haircuts to show that they're not part of this system. Meanwhile, they're laughing all the way to the bank, raking it in, and making lives miserable for others. Now, she's got some kids too. I don't want to get into the specifics, but one of the things I'm going to look into is whether or not her kids go to public schools. There was in Berkeley, another super lefty place, probably the only city that's to the left of San Francisco in America. One of the guys on the board of education over there was fighting tooth and nail to keep the public schools from reopening. Meanwhile, there's video of him taking his kid to a private school. The hypocrisy knows no bounds on the left. So, with that, let me just thank you for joining us today. I'm expecting to have some guests next week, some interesting folks. Actually, a couple, maybe even one on Thursday, but certainly next week. So I'll keep you posted on all that. Also, I'll keep you posted on, we shot this new ad for the campaign, an introductory ad. I'm expecting to see a first draft of it here any minute. And I'm going to give that a look, and then we'll post that at some point. So that's for the John Dennis for Congress 2020 campaign. And I'll be happy to share that with you. In the meantime, have a great day. And come on back. We'll be back on Thursday at this time at 2 p.m. on the West Coast, 5 p.m. on the East. And we will chat about more stuff related to the wild goings-on in our country. On this note, let me just finish with this. I'm going to get my bit on Thursday is going to be about. I'm going to talk a bit about the direction of America. Can we recover? Because I feel like we've clearly taken a step down, and it's going to be sort of the theme of the it will be the theme of the John Dennis report moving forward. Can America recover? Can we buck history and turn the tide and actually restore what we once had? So we'll talk about that in a realistic way, and that'll be the primary theme of the John Dennis report moving forward. Thanks so much for joining me today. We will see you on Thursday.